Welcome to Walking Out Your Purpose with yours truly, Alicia Smith. What an honor and a privilege it is to serve you all and to come back one more time with a phenomenal episode. You know, we never disappoint here on the Walking Out Your Purpose show. And today I have such a special treat for you all. You're going to hear from a beautiful spirit, beautiful woman of God, Andreana Holliman. She is going to share with you all her purpose, her story, and I am sure you're going to be enriched, inspired, empowered, and you are going to be on your way to walking in your purpose. So, welcome to the show, my love.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Hello, everybody.
Awesome. I am so excited as well for people to hear your voice and to hear from you. So, I love to start with tell me all about you and what you're all about.
Okay, well, I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a Christian, I'm a program manager for the Boys and Girls Club of Broward County. I wear a lot of hats, but not that many hats. I've been born and raised here in South Florida. I'm raised by my mom, single parent at the time, raising us three girls. She raised us up in the church. So I've been in the Church of Christ my whole life and moved on to Orlando in 2009, I believe it was, where I went to pursue the Disney College program. And from there, life just took its course. I pursued that and then a few other careers, and where I landed at Ninth Street Church of Christ, where I served faithfully and eventually moved back down to South Florida, where I married my husband, man of God, faithful servant at the Hope Church of Christ, who is the minister of songs there. And, now here we are, 2.5 years of marriage later, 2 kids later, and just thriving God has for us right now. So there's a little bit about me.
I love it. I love it. And yes, you all are thriving. And I love to watch you all together. I love to see both of you operate in your gifts. It's a beautiful thing to see. So, speaking of gifts, tell us, how would you define purpose? Because that's what our show is about. And, what is your purpose? And when did you discover that?
Okay. I bring everything back to God. I bring everything back to the spiritual, right? Because the world has nothing to offer us. It's all about God. And I believe purpose comes from God. He created us. Many of us are familiar with the scripture, Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, that says God knows the plan that he has for us. And I believe our purpose comes from God. And we learn that by what we love doing, right? Not what mom and dad say we should do or what others think we should do, but just what we're passionate about doing. And I'm passionate about serving young people and young adults my age and just providing encouragement. My husband and I kind of gave the title of being a life coach, and that's what's in plan for me right now in the making for my career, becoming a life coach, and I'm really excited about that. So pray with me on it.
You all are, I know some people are going to be listening to the podcast, but please go watch this on YouTube because I'm over here dancing. I am so excited. Yes. Yes. I can totally see that for you.
I've always wanted to own my own daycare because, God has given me the gift of working with children. Then that changed to owning my own youth center. And I'm like, you know what? Lately, with this season of being a mom and a wife and just with everything I have going on, I kind of felt God shifting me. And, I've always just been good at talking and encouraging. And my best friends and I were kind of putting it into practice now. They call me Nana, like, you call us, you give us goals, you follow up with me on my goals and this and that. And I'm like, wow, I'm already doing this. And this is what God has gifted me with. Let me go ahead and put it to work. So I believe our purpose comes from God and the gift that he's given us, what we're passionate about doing. And I'm really passionate about encouraging and coaching people. So I believe that's my intake on purpose.
I love it. I love it. And the word that you used was shift, right? And God is definitely shifting. If you all have not experienced that in your life, pray to God about that because it's important that you're operating in your gifts and in your calling so that you feel fulfilled. and that you can bring glory to God. That's what we're all here to do. And when we're not in his alignment, I'm telling you, everything will just, you won't feel right. It just, you'll never feel like you are accomplishing what you should be. You're just kind of not hitting the mark. Get in alignment, follow the shift. When he shifts, you got to move. So I love it.
Yeah.
I'm praying for that effort for sure. Anything I can do to be a
Thank you.
blessing, absolutely will do that. I'm so excited for you for that. So everyone has a story, right?
Yeah.
So if maybe you could share a little bit of your story, even if it's about this shift that you're getting ready to go into, but whatever you want to share, kind of what's your story, and then how has that connected to your purpose?
Okay. It sounds like it's breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me
I can,
well?
I can.
Yeah. Okay. Make sure I have Wi-Fi. Okay. So my story, as I mentioned earlier, I was raised in a single parent home. My mom, just such a hardworking parent, faithful servant, but I also grew up in a broken home. My sister, the middle one, and I, we didn't always get along. And with the things I dealt with that, it caused me to become a person to suppress how I feel, because I was taught during that time I'm the oldest, I should know better. So it's just one of those things where I've always held it in and never really talked about how I felt, because we just didn't communicate like that in our home. And that caused me to grow up to become I hate to say bitter person, but internally bitter. And it showed in relationships, it showed on the job. People would see this perky nana, but deep down inside, it was just always that heartbroken, bitter person inside. So I think that's, we talk about purpose and, wanting to help other people see what they're dealing with and deal with internally, and learning to talk about it, because I had to learn the hard way how unhealthy it was. So by the time I graduated, from high school, I couldn't wait to leave. Like I said, my mom's awesome. It's just the kind of toxic environment that I grew up in, an environment where we just really didn't communicate. When I finally had the opportunity to leave the nest and explore the world, it it made me better. It showed me myself, because I was all in Orlando by myself. All I had was what I had until I, eventually gained church family up there. But that kind of started the journey of me learning myself, learning to love myself while helping others in that journey as well. Because of that as well, I found myself in toxic relationships that, it didn't benefit me at all. And with that being said, that once again, I had to get to a season of learning to love myself and learning to accept my flaws, learning to acknowledge things that were in me that, just wasn't good, in allowing God, because I relied on people, I relied on relationship, I relied on external things to what's the word, nurse that, to soothe that, the temporary fixes that we often hear about. And being in a season of learning to love myself, being in a season of learning myself, God really opened my eyes to a lot. So many people have known that in the past I was in a relationship where I left, the guy kidnapped me, and took me somewhere, did some things. And throughout that entire time, just praying and, just that person in me that just want to help a person, but learning that, some relationships, some people, you got to let it go and just let God handle the person. But it didn't end too well for me, but by the grace of God, he delivered me from that. He delivered me from that situation, from that person. And, that being a factor as well that has helped me learn to embrace a season of singleness, learning to love myself and heal and allow God to do the things that he's done in me. And that's, what brings me here to today. The season of that has brought about my husband, learning to just let go, let God, let him do a work in me so that I don't bring toxic things into my marriage, into future relationships with my children, with church family, with coworkers. And And now learning to working on not passing that on to my children. We call them generational curses, and making sure that they know that they're loved and not suppressing how they feel, and knowing their value when it comes to being in relationships, and helping others through that as well.
And I think that's a beautiful testament to God when we learn from our past experiences, and when we pay it forward to help the next person not have to experience that, right? Experience doesn't have to be the best teacher, right? And so I'm hopeful, I'm prayerful too
Mhm.
that you're able to help your children steer, in a direction where they don't have to, have those experiences. But I think the most important thing is recognizing that all things that we go through are for a purpose. And even though they could be hurtful, painful, deep, right? But the person, your testimony and what you're going to be able to share with another person to help them come out of that or to help them steer away from that, is just going to be amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that when I ask that question, I want people to really think about what are the things that have happened in their life and how can they use that to fuel their purpose and fuel giving back and helping others and really leveraging that story and that experience for good, right? Because even all the, if you look at all the Bible characters, all the different stories, right, nobody was perfect except Jesus. So they all had to go through the lion's den, fighting Goliath. Like, it was like giants and big things that people had to experience and go through, but God, again, got the glory out of the situation, right? And so I want us all to think about that so that we can, because we all have purpose. We don't have to sit and ponder and scratch and, pull our hair out trying to figure out what our purpose is. It's right in front of us. And if we really take the time to do a self evaluation and to spend some time with ourselves and
Mhm.
talk to ourselves, I know that maybe doesn't seem, correct, but you really have to talk with yourself and understand, and of
Mhm.
course talk with God, to understand what your purpose is. So I love that you shared that story. All right, so speaking of purpose, tell us about habits. Like, what do you do? How are you intentional with walking in your purpose? Do you is there certain things that you do on a daily basis to feel that fulfillment?
So in this current season that I'm in, being a mommy of two under two, and being a wife and still working full time, and just still working in ministries, and it's been challenging to develop. I won't say develop a habit, but stick with it, right? Because consistency is key. But I've been putting in little efforts here and there. So as far as my purpose, we talk about, let's just use life coaching, for example, writing it down. I'm a huge believer in writing things down. I'm also a sticky note, colorful person type of thing. So I gotta have my highlighters, I gotta have my color pens, I gotta have my notebook. And I write these things down. I write scriptures down. I pray over it. I love to share my testimony. And when I used to have a prayer journal, I got to give back to it. I would, whatever I would ask God for, right? I'm gonna use my YMCA job in Orlando, for example. Before I got the job, that was when I was in a season of love and stuff. I had learned, when we go to God in prayer, it's so important to remind him of the word. He knows the word, but remind him, like, Lord, I'm sick. Remember your word says, you provide healing to those who are sick, and going to the elders and praying. So Lord, here I'm doing this. So with this job in particular, I said, okay, Lord, I thank you. I start with gratitude. I thank you that you have blessed me with the gift of working with children and coordinating and planning. And, I thank you that you blessed me with the opportunity to use this gift in the church. But Lord, I'm looking to use it in the world as well. And then in the journey, I would continue on, and I utilize scriptures where God has encouraged us to use our gifts for his glory. And I knew that'd be a way of bringing glory to him by using my gifts in the world. And I was even specific. I said, Lord, I think during the time I was like, if you just allowed them to give me $12 an hour, it was a part-time job, $12 an hour. So they told me put 16, I don't know why, but I put $12 an hour. And I said, that'll be so awesome. So I ended up getting the job, praying my prayer. using the scriptures, starting with gratitude. And I got the job. And these people, they gave me 12, like 06 an hour. And I'm like, God, you're so funny. Because I didn't know what kind of offer they were going to give to me. So I was like, Lord, if I would have put 16 in that prayer, would you give me that $16? So I said, oh man. But I had a good laugh with God because it just showed me, his words, they come before him boldly, and I didn't come bold enough. I thought about it, I didn't do it. He was like, let me show you real quick. So, like I said, in developing habits, that's something that I used to do and what I'm trying to get back to. So in the meantime, as God is giving me things, that I've been able to start. And as he's giving me these things, I'm writing it down, even if I'm like putting it in my notes in my phone, or I'm at work and I'm putting in a sticky note and put it in my bag. But that's been a habit I've been doing, writing it down. But now it's being consistent with following through in the things that I'm writing. So.
And listen, honey, it happens to the best of us. It happens to all of us. I think having a heart after God, and even if we don't get a chance to write it down, I know we're praying, we're still in conversation with God, and so that's what's most important, is that we have a relationship. And those that are listening, if you don't have a relationship with God, I'm telling you, are living below your privilege. Like, it's amazing to have that connection
Listen.
with, yeah, yeah, it's amazing to have that connection. And um, God will honor your prayer request. And sometimes, of course, you're in a season where he's saying not now, but there are so many examples of when he says yes. And the things that you don't see that he prohibits from happening, right, is even a praise. So, I think it's important to just make sure, if nothing else, is that you pray every day and that you have a conversation. And if you can get
Mhm.
a prayer journal, I certainly encourage you to do that. I need to do that as well, because I think it's important, because it's a good reminder. And I always tell people in the working world, I always say, you have a brag book, right? You need to have that book where you write down when people tell you thank you and you did great on this project or this exercise, or all the good things, because you're gonna have bad days, right? And so it's always good to kind of be able to go back and say, okay, it's just a bad day. It's just it's just a moment. Let me, think about these things. The Bible says, think on good things, noble things, things of good report. So, that's even spiritual. So I love it that what you talked about there. So what I want to shift to right now is people facing their fears. And you're I have overcome some things, you're working on some new things. So what encouragement would you have to people on, facing their fear and really getting out there and operating in their calling?
Okay, so let's break it upside that half of that. So advice to those who are working
Yeah.
on facing their fears
Mhm.
and
Accomplishing their goals, or even walking in their calling. What encouragement would you have for them on how to face their fears?
okay, my encouragement is, what's the worst that can happen? If God has placed something on your heart, or if there's something that you have a desire to do, if there's a fear of failing at it, I always look at it this way: what's the worst that can happen? Either you don't do it and not know whether or not you're going to fail at it or not, or do it, well, don't do it and not know what it can turn out to be, or do it. And, if you fail, it's okay. You keep going. There's so many successful people out there, and I'm sure they didn't get it at the first try. We have to be consistent. We have to continue trying. And most importantly, as we've been talking, prayer. God, is this what you have for me? And Lord, remove this fear, because God, you did not give me the spirit of fear. If we're fearful, we know that it hasn't come from God. And oftentimes the enemy will put fear in our hearts to hold us back and to hinder us from receiving what God has for us. So it's so important. I can't put enough emphasis on, prayer, and, really asking God to show us, asking God to reveal things to us. Because you know what, maybe if we're failing at something, maybe it's just not what God has for us. Alicia, you said God's either going to say yes, no, or later. but we have to be okay with the no, and we have to be okay with the later. So, we could be trying at something over and over and over again. I'll use myself for an example, the youth ministry. I love working with the youth, but now that I've become a mom, I kind of feel like God has shifted me in, really motivating and encouraging moms. And then the whole life coach thing, it could be kids or adults. But it's like I felt like I kept forcing it. I kept failing at it. Finally, after prayer and fasting, I realized God was saying, this isn't it anymore, my daughter. This is why it's not working. So it may not be working because it's not what God has for us, or maybe it isn't. God is refining us to get to it. So it's so important to bring it back to God. Pray about it, because he'll let you know in your spirit. God gave us conviction, right? So you'll know the conviction in your heart whether or not something is for you or not. So it all depends on how we're looking at the word failure.
Yeah, I know a young man that I know that's on Facebook. He always talks about fail forward, so it's about your posture, your attitude about it. And yes, so many people that are successful, they failed at something, but the key is they learned something. So when you fail, what is the key lesson so that you can do it better the next time? And being obedient and listening to God. And again, when He's telling you to shift, you got to
Shit.
shift. So speaking of the work that you're doing with moms, tell us about your Facebook page, your community that you started. Tell us a little bit
Oh.
about that.
So, how spiritual mom support group, that the group was birthed out of the pandemic. So, when the pandemic first started, I was pregnant with Sapphire, my second baby, while caring for Sakani, who was probably, I don't know, she was probably 6, 7 months at the time. And it was a challenge for me because here I am stuck at home all day, pregnant with an infant. And the apartment where we were living, it was a beautiful apartment, but we were still confined, and where we were was just, the sun didn't really hit. I need light to really help my mental space. So it was just a lot going on. I was overwhelmed, kind of started still a new mom, and I felt alone. So I started joining other mom groups, and they were not as supportive. Not to knock out other groups, but a comment was made on one of the pages, and it just went from 0 to 100. I'm like, I thought this was supposed to be a support thing. So at that moment in time, God put on my heart, why don't you start your own? And I was like, whoa, God, what you talking about? I just want to join somebody else's stuff and just do it that way. And it sat on me for a while, and I still kept feeling the spirit saying, start your own group. So I was like, okay, God, let's do this. So I would, Sakani would sleep. I would take, push myself to, think of a name. Of course, anytime when I start something, I always seek God's advice. And that's when, help came about, spiritual mom support group. And then I started, once I created a page, I got advice from, some sisters, and, boom, we started sharing the pages with other sisters in Christ, and they shared it with others. And I wanted it to be a platform where, a group of Christian sisters and, and non-Christians as well could come together and just we could support one another. Let it be a safe space to vent, to know that we're not alone. I know that, as a new mom, a lot of the things that I was dealing with, I felt alone. I felt like I was the only person, dealing with it and going through it. Like days where I just want to just walk out the door and just don't see my husband, don't see the girls, because I'm just tired, overwhelmed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, God, why do I feel this way? I feel like a horrible person. I feel like a terrible person. And for me to learn in this group, a lot of other moms felt the same way too. So, starting up that group, it really paved the way for moms to come together, Christians to come together, so that we can vent, encourage one another, support one another, and bring those in the world in too, because that's a platform for saving souls. So and it's still thriving. There's so much more. I feel like God is pushing me to take that to the next level. So I got to start praying and fasting over that. God's like, it's not going to be no virtual platform no more. I got other plans for this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, like I don't have enough to do, but I'm excited about it at the same time. And I know God is gonna make provisions for me to take it to the next level. So
I can't wait. And
and then it's just also a beautiful thing to see sisters come and like, we would do the prayer warrior who would just pray for moms who just have whatever prayer request. And, it doesn't have to be on a big platform. A lot of people like to open up in front of a big group like that. So it's just, yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I definitely want to see that flourish and grow. I think it's such a good thing. It's so needed. And yeah, people, like you said, want to know they're not by themselves, right? I think I just posted on something that you had up and I was like, I thought that was just me. Like, and so I think that is so good. And it's a blessing. So thank you for using your gift, using your influence to help so many people. It's such a blessing. So all right. So let's see here. I want to know, what is one challenge that you've had in pursuing your purpose, and how have you overcome that challenge?
Finding the time, that's been my challenge. From the moment I wake up in the morning, I hit the ground running, and by the time I get back home, I'm tired. And I'm nursing over, throughout the night with Sapphire. So just finding the time. So I thank God for my job. It's not always that busy. So I have moments here and there where I can just hang out at my desk and work on my purpose. And I so don't say I'm still in time on the job. A lot of the ideas God has given me, I'm able to incorporate that into my job as well as a manager. So just it's finding time. But I've learned, when I think about prayer, I think about big things like God bless me with this, God bless me with that, God help me with this, help me with that. But never like God help me to find the time, or God give me the time. And I've experienced Him do that, and it's just like, whoa, like, oh, I just finished this and the girls were sleeping for 2 hours. Thank you, God. So yeah, time. But God has been helping, with that.
And when we're operating in His will, He graces us some kind of way. You know,
Absolutely.
I
Mm-hmm.
was texting a group of friends the other day, and we were just like, "Hey, we did this just check in, like, how's everybody and what is everybody up to, right?" And so people were, we were texting back and forth, and I, wrote my text, and I got, this. They were like, "Girl, I'm tired reading the text message, like, of all this stuff that you're doing." I say it's all God. Like, I don't even know how I am even operating sanely either, because there's so many different things. But God gives you some kind of grace, supernatural, and when you're in His will. So, absolutely, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. So, all right. So tell us about. So I'm going to shift to your marriage, and then we'll start to wrap it up. So tell us about maybe a little bit about the story of you and your husband, whatever you're comfortable with sharing. And I mean, both of you all, again, powerhouses in ministry. So how are you all? How are you working together, and how does that look for you all in ministry?
Okay, so my husband, I'm transparent. I share almost everything. So if he watches later, I'm not gonna get in trouble. I hope so. Uh, my husband, Ruben Holliman, we actually connected through social media, but the main connection was through a mutual friend, Alvin. Alvin told Ruben about me. Then he reached out to me through Facebook Messenger. And at first, I'm like, oh my gosh, another crazy person on Facebook Messenger. Let me delete, because that's what I would do. But something so let me entertain this. Let's see where this goes. And he mentioned that he was coming up because I was still in Orlando, that he was coming up to Orlando for something about his job. And that he wanted to link up. So we did, and we ended up, I forgot where we ate. And keep in mind, I was in my season of loving myself, feeling myself, learning myself. And when we went out to eat, he was like, hey, so can we kind of just like order some appetizers and just share them? And I'm like, no, I would like a chicken salad. So I'm gonna order a chicken salad. And he was like, oh, okay. And I could figure, because he was My husband has come a long way. He's thriving in his career now, but we were both, a little younger and finding ourselves in our careers as well. So while he was in the beginning of that, money was a little tight. And I said, listen, I want a chicken salad. So if you can buy it, I'm going to get it myself. And I did. And I felt good about that. And after that, I was like, I don't want to mess with this dude no more. I'm good. But it was a spiritual I fell in love with. He was lucky I was a Christian, and spiritual come before anything else. And our spiritual dialect, that night it was so deep. And whoever my husband was, I've been praying for my husband. Like, Lord, prepare him as you prepare me. Give me a man after your own heart. Everything on my prayers always been, give me a handsome man too, and this and that. But my main focus has always been, give me somebody who's a man after your heart. And I could see that in him, that, that first night when we went out to eat, and, since then we kind of kicked it off. I was still in Orlando, he was down south. So I'd go down and visit, and then he would come up and visit. And we did that for what, a year and a half or so before, he proposed. And we kicked it off from there. I believe it was February of 2018 that he proposed. It was a huge proposal at the sanctuary, Hope Church of Christ. I didn't see it coming. Sister Daniel and him planned it out, and and it was awesome. And then we got married November of 2018. My cousin gave me the advice: listen, he proposed, just make it happen. 1, 2, 3. Don't be trying to wait 2, 3 years, because for so many reasons. And then to top it off, you're gonna find yourself wanting to add this to your wedding, that to your wedding, and this to your wedding. And then before you know, you spend all this money on a wedding. Just, he's for you, you're for him, make it happen. So we did that November, and God blessed us with a beautiful wedding. I tried to convince him to move up to Orlando because I like Orlando. It's a slower speed, and but I had to respect that. I had to do what was best for us spiritually, and his work, the work that he had going on at Hope, I didn't want to mess with that. I didn't want to interfere with that. So I followed. I know a lot of sisters will have a hard time receiving that piece, but I knew he'd be my husband. He'd be the leader, and after praying, it's not like he said this is going to happen. We talked about it, we prayed about it, and ultimately we realized, no, this is the best decision for us spiritually, and that's the direction in which we moved. And we've gone from there. Conceived the baby that January, and I promise, since we got married, even before, it's just been go, 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 married, boom, baby number 1, boom, baby number 2 the next year, boom, boom, boom. So it's just like blessing, but a burden at the same time. But God is good. He's given me everything I've prayed for: a beautiful family, a man after his heart. No one is perfect, but I'm okay with this imperfection that God has blessed us with. So that's us.
That is such a beautiful, beautiful story. And I love the fact that you said at the end of the day, you wanted to make sure that you were spiritually compatible. And so
Mm-hmm.
for those that are listening that, maybe in a season of singleness, maybe you're looking to, your widow or your divorcee or whatever, and you're looking to, get back into a covenant with someone. That compatibility on a spiritual level is so incredibly important. There's a lot of elements that are important, but that is really important, because at the end of the day, I always tell people, you want someone that can cover you. You want someone that will go to battle for you in prayer. You want someone that, you're going to have disputes. You're going to have spats, right? I mean, we're just humans. And so that's going to happen. But you want to be with someone where you all like, we got to get it together. You know what I mean? Because who we serve, and we're not going to, continue to be, acting weird with each other, right? Because we want that reconciliation, because that's what we do as Christians, right? That's what we do with Christ on a daily basis. So I love that. I love the two of you all. I think, again, you're such a blessing to Hope, such a blessing to us, such a blessing to the sisterhood and brotherhood around. I mean, and again, you all are being used by God in so many places. And so I think it's just an amazing, amazing thing. And I always tell people, you want to complement each other in marriage, and that's what I see you all doing. So that is beautiful. So I'm just excited to see what else
Glory to
God
God.
has in store. So so awesome. All right. Well, thank you, my love, for sharing with our community. And I love the fact that you get to walk in purpose at work. We didn't get a chance to talk a lot about the Boys and Girls Club, but you're walking in purpose there, and you're able to carve out a little thinking time to even pursue your additional purpose in ministry. And I think that's awesome. So, how can people keep up with you? How can they follow you? Let folks know how they can connect.
Well, I am on social media, Facebook. You can just look me up just by typing in my full name, Andreana Holliman, Andreana, last name Holliman. I'm on Instagram. You'll see a lot of pictures of just family, and I like to post encouraging scriptures as well on Instagram. It's a virtue AVIRTUE 07. And then I'm not really on like Snapchat and all the other stuff, but those are the main places there where you can find me. And moms, single, divorced, married, who if you're a mom, look up help H will help with dots in between spiritual mom support group. I promise the group will bless your soul, bless your spirit. We have ministers' wives and just so many people coming in that will drop nuggets and encouragement in there as well. And it's blessed me. Like I put together, but other people are pouring into it, and this is blessed me as well. So, check out the group and share it with other moms as well.
Amazing. So God bless you and everything that you're doing. And it's my prayer that you all go follow her so you can be encouraged, uplifted, especially if you're a mom. Make sure you check out her Facebook page, as she mentioned. And at the end of the day, face your fears. When God says shift, make the pivot. It will bless you. And just make room for God. Make room for God. So I appreciate you all for tuning in each and every time that we post the podcast. We certainly appreciate you and pray God's blessings over you. All right. And thank you, girl, for joining me today. God bless you all.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Go conquer your day, you all. Don't let it conquer you. Be blessed.